All right, what's going on, guys? Do a little mic check here. Make sure everything sounds good. Sweet. Okay. Love this song, so figured we'll keep it on repeat for a minute. Okay, so I was writing a little Golang this morning. Just kind of trying some different stuff. So if you've been following the stream or kind of drop in every now and again, you know that I do like a lot of TypeScript stuff. So lately it's been a little bit of Angular, a little bit of React, very light Golang. But today I just wanted to focus solely on Golang. I'm a .NET dev, so this is fun for me to jump into other languages and frameworks. Again, I'll be using the real world spec to kind of just flesh out and kind of build a Golang backend. So I have done the real world implementation, I guess half of it ish for Golang, but what I really wanted to do, so I just learned about this cool sort of microservice framework. I really don't even want to call it a framework. It provides bare minimum wiring to build Go services in a sort of microservice oriented pattern. So I just found out about it. I really like it. So my 8 to 5, I work with .NET microservices, and we do all sorts of different microservice type stuff without getting too into details to what that actually entails. I wanted something that was similar to Golang that I could just kind of bring in and kind of have all this stuff wired up ready for me to go. So I'm for me, I'm looking for stuff like service middlewares, again, stuff like circuit breaking, rate limiting, sort of transport layer, logging, just kind of all this stuff that you want wired in without having to do it yourself. And we could do all this stuff with Golang and probably the standard library, but we don't need to reinvent the wheel because someone's already done it for us. So I've been messing around with this for the last couple of days, GoKit, and I really like it. So I decided let's build a couple of microservices with GoKit. And I thought the perfect implementation might be using the backend spec for real world. So we'll implement some user microservices, really just one user microservice. We'll have a microservice for profile interactions, and then we'll have a microservice for articles. And we kind of use the quote unquote term microservice very loosely here because these are going to be more like siloed services being served all within the same context. So I haven't decided if I'm going to probably attempt to split these up into truly separate microservices, meaning each one's being served under a entirely different domain, and then we could get away with having our users microservice serving maybe via HTTP or JSON over HTTP. We could have one microservice that is more RPC based. I like JSON over HTTP. That's the way I've been building stuff forever, and it's easy to debug. We get to see requests going out and coming back. I think RPC is a little bit better for service to service talking amongst microservices where you're not really inspecting what's going over the wire, right? We work a lot as full stack devs. We do a lot of client work. So we have client API calls going into our backend microservices or just backend services, and those services give us back JSON, and it's easy to look at and it's easy to kind of see what the response is and debug slew of issues. We don't really get that. That's one of the trade-offs, with building an RPC-based service, right? So we have very small sort of binary messages going back and forth between these services. Unfortunately, we don't get to debug them as easily, but they're very memory efficient. They're very efficient talking to one another, but we trade off that sort of nice developer experience of being able to see a request come back from a service and do some more inspection on it and kind of help us debug by, visually looking at the data and whatnot. So, cool. So let's jump right in. So I have a project scaffolded out here. So far, we've just got, let's run over. I just found this tool too. This is another great tool that I've been utilizing lately, called, I don't think it's called Task. I literally think it's just called Task. So it's a task runner that is written with Go. Works great for Go. It's along the lines of Make, but with Make, right? The whole idea of Make being we're going to take source code and turn it into binaries or runnable, executables or something, right? I'm taking files and I'm spitting them out and turning them into other files, right? That was the whole idea behind Make. For the stuff that I was using Make for, I might have just been building out a Go project, right? Or I might have just been building out a Go binary, a single Go binary, right? And so I was more or less using Make as a glorified task runner. And so I decided to transition over to this tool called Tasko, or Go Task. And it's been fitting my needs exactly. So what it is if I jump into my terminal here, so WSL2, also another great unpopular opinion. I just heard this on a podcast, but I have no problem saying it here. The best development environment is Windows. Don't at me. With WSL, I should say. Task is just a, let's see. Hopefully my task installation didn't go anywhere. So if I run a quick task, okay. There we go. So you'll see this task. So if I do a task help, so it's just CLI tool. Well, it's much more than a CLI tool, but so your task command here reads your task file, and we have targets set up. So I have some stuff where we're building out the user's authentication microservice when we actually finish it. Why not? So I have some stuff to start some Docker containers in the background. I have some stuff to do some Atlas management, and Atlas is just a sort of schema generation tool. I've talked about it on stream before. So just to help me manage my schema, my database schema and whatnot. So we kind of think of it as like a migration tool. Has a nice user interface to it. There's some cool stuff that's included with Atlas. If you're looking to maybe come off of like Go Migrate, or looking to migrate from a Go Migrate or some other ORM tool, I highly recommend it. It's a very light implementation. It really just manages your schema, which is really what I wanted. I didn't really want to, have some big migration tool. I've worked a lot with things like, Hibernate, JPA, EF Core in the past. And for Golang, I'm kind of transitioning to a point in my career where, I really don't want, these big, heavy ORMs that kind of just do everything for me magically. I really just want them to manage my schema and leave it up to me as to how I'm going to, execute commands and run queries to get data out. So I really like it. It's been serving me well. So I have some commands set up to just kind of help, format my Atlas files, combine all my Atlas files here, and then it runs a few Atlas commands to go look at my database server name. So this is just coming from an M file. So I get all the cool stuff that we might use Make with, but in a more, I guess, task-oriented fashion. And it's a YAML file. I think everyone knows how to read YAML. Actually, this is going to drive me nuts. I really don't like putting the whole YAML. I'm just more of a YAML extension guy. So I have a few dependencies set up here. So I have some stuff to help facilitate, so SQLX, just nice database wrapper. We have Chi, which is just a Go router. Again, no Go web frameworks. I'm very new to Go, so I don't really need a framework right now because I don't need a framework to solve the problems that I have. Maybe when I get to that point where I need to solve some issues, I might bring in a framework. But as for now, I like Qi, super lightweight, super fast. Some .m stuff to just help us read M files. We're using Postgres and a little cores package just to help facilitate the transport layer cores. And then I have a bunch of Go kit dependencies here. So some stuff for wiring up endpoints. And again, we're going to learn Go kit together here. I don't really know. I'm not the Go kit expert. I've really just been experimenting, messing around with it in the sandbox environment for last couple of days. So we will be reading documentation and learning together as we go. We're using Prometheus, which is just some service metrics, so I can see things like requests coming into the service, requests going out, number of errored services, number of maybe in-flight requests, right? So if I wanted to query at the moment that someone makes a request, I can see, there's one request flow going on right now to log in a user or register a user or something like that. And then we have some HashiCorp stuff, just simple HCL, being able to parse files. So I'm using HCL as a configuration language just to help, config my environments. So if I wanted to dump, public keys or anything that, is environment specific, so I could just swap out files or something like that. And read from external configuration. And then I've got Golang validator. I haven't messed around with this library too much, so we will actually be seeing what is going on with this as well. I just didn't really want to write my own validation. So I come from .NET, so unfortunately I'm spoiled by tools like Fluent Validation, which is an amazing sort of, again, Fluent API-driven way to write validation on C# classes. And Go Validator seems to fit that need for me. I think a lot of people, what I've seen, at least from on the Golang subreddit, seems to have mixed reviews because it is sort of driven based off of tags, which probably means some reflection. I haven't looked too deep into the library, but I'm just going to roll with this for now. And until I don't see a need for it, maybe we'll swap it out for a different validator or something like that, or maybe do our own validation. But yeah, just help us reduce boilerplate code. So we're going to set up services in a very sort of n-tier fashion. So we'll have a domain slice of users. That users slice includes sort of domain objects, so aggregate models, any sort of requests that might come into the service, outgoing responses based on what happened in the service layer and whatnot. We'll have an actual service layer, which will facilitate the actual work of creating users or registering users, and just kind of be our orchestrator between endpoint and the middleman between the transport layer and the repository layer. And then last but not least, we do have some repository stuff set up, so just to help us extract data and however we need to. So again, we'll be using SQLX, and I have some stuff already set up here just to help us write pretty simple database logic just to pull users out, update users, create users, insert users into a table. So nothing too crazy here. We could use an ORM, but our need is pretty simple as of right now. So I don't really think we need to worry about that. So let's go ahead and get started here. So I do have some errors here, and I think it's probably because it's my Go path. Let's see. We might have to sync dependencies here. I don't think we need to. Let's see. Add import alias. No. Let's see. Let's do a go mod tidy. Okay. So let's see if that maybe helped out here. Cannot resolve. All right. So let's see here. Okay. So it looks like that resolved some of my missing dependencies there. Am I going to golf? Probably not. It's raining right now, so I most likely will not golf. I'll be streaming, and then I've got some stuff that I got to do a little bit later today. But you're more than welcome to hang out and write some Golang with us for about an hour. 1 o'clock I'll be heading out. If you guys do golf, good luck. Wish you the best. Okay, so I've got some dependencies that were resolved. Yeah, you might be recruiting me. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Okay, so I've got some resolved dependencies. I have a task file here, so let's actually go ahead and spin up our Postgres server. So this is just going to read from a Docker file here. So if I actually take a look at what that file is, just a simple Postgres container. I'm just going to spin it up. It's going to serve over the default Postgres port. I have some stuff here. It's going to read from my M file to get Postgres user, password, all that type of stuff. About as simple as a Postgres container can come. So let's go ahead and spin this up. So I'll head over to, where are we at? So go, source, GitHub, Joey McKenzie. So we'll go real world, go kit. All right, so let's run a task, Postgres start. Okay, so this should be spinning up now. So I've already built this container, so there shouldn't be any big lagging dependencies here. So, okay. I guess we'll have to wait and see. All right. So my Postgres container is spun up. So let's go ahead and test some of the repository stuff that I have written out here. So we wrote down in our repository layer here. So we have, again, just some simple wiring up of creating a repository, doing some SQL stuff, getting users out of a database, inserting users. So let's just go ahead and see if we could even create a user as of right now. With GoKit, one of the great things that I like about it, and I'm really enjoying, is the ease of wiring middlewares into sort of really any of our services. So we think of a repository as a service. It's just a service with dependencies that need to get injected and whatnot. And so I can wrap my repository layer with a sort of logging middleware that I'll use to log the name, the method, request context, more or less. So I can see, what the input to the method was to the repository. I can see we're going to do a little bit of like trace logging. So I'm going to figure out how long the query took, or the execution time, whatnot. Maybe print out some results, and then also print out any errors that may have occurred. And so this will happen on every request automatically for me. So I don't have to actually write, any sort of logging inside of here. And we totally could, if I wanted to specifically log out errors here, I could log the error or whatever if I really wanted to. But luckily for us, since we're deferring this, this will execute after that function, and I'll be able to automatically just, have all this logging done for me at one time, and I don't have to do it manually. So, well, I mean, we are writing it as a middleware. So, okay, let's go wire this thing up. So, let's head over to, where are we starting this guy? So I have a command folder here. This is a main.go. Okay, so one thing I want to do, to hit a golf ball further, what I would do is I would learn to use a driver. I know some people that can't use drivers, and I'm not 100% sure why they don't know how to hit drivers. I don't know if they had, some sort of trauma with, hitting drivers or something like that, but it's pretty simple to do. And, I think really anyone, if they are worth their weight in salt, should be able to use a driver. But, I'll leave that to those that don't feel comfortable with a driver. You do your thing. If you can hit, ball straight with a 5-iron, 220, I wouldn't fix anything that's not broke, but that's not me. I'm a much better golfer than most of my friends. So, okay, so I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to instantiate a logger here. So this will be my log var logger. So I do want to bring in the logging library from GoKit. And so let's bring this in. So I want to wire this up in such a way that I want to print a console, and then I kind of want to incrementally build my logger out. And let me, because I'm going to cheat here, I'm going to go, let's see. I'm just going to grab some stuff that I've already written. Source, GitHub. Let's grab that guy. Okay. So I'm going to pull out a logger that I've already written, or just some logging configuration and then some service wiring up and whatnot, because I've already written it. So Let me go grab it. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this over. So I'm gonna build out my logger. I'm gonna log to standard error, so standard dev error log. So standard error, so that gets logged out. So this is my log sync. So again, we think of loggers as more or less like a singleton instance, and then we pass it around with context to other services and components. So this is my users microservice here. So and this took me a minute to really wrap my mind around it. So I've not been really used to logging in the sense of treating logs as a dictionary of logged objects. So a few benefits from doing that. Obviously, we get structure in our logs. So if I were to feed logs through to some sort of like log aggregation tool like Kibana or something like that, I'd be able to have all my logs go in a structured fashion. I can index them easier. They're easier to sort of search on and all this type of stuff. If I have unstructured logging, much more difficult to sort of feed through to a tool and for the tool to index, right? So I can index on different fields if I wanted to. I could index on services and anything inside of some microservice. So our service here will be our user service. So I'll call it that. So we'll also implement the caller. So I'll be able to see who's logging at what file is logging at what line. So it'll be nice. Cool. And then we're going to wire up an info log and just say, hey, bootstrapping the application or bootstrapping the application. And then we have, just a simple log that's going to be spit out for shutting things down. Cool. Okay. So that's our logger. So let's go ahead and build out some of our repository stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and wire up a new database. Well, I need to bring in go.m first because I want it to read from my .env file here. So let's go ahead and take care of that. So I'll say, let's go ahead and just do an if-er. So I really just want to take go.env. So I can get my IntelliSense here, and let's just wire this up real quick. It's nil. We'll do some stuff here. So I'm going to say if my error comes back from go.env, and I'll say load config, and I should have some IntelliSense coming back here, hopefully. Might have to bring this in. Hopefully I have it installed. Let's see. Let's grab. Yeah. Oh, that's what I want. Just load. So we'll say load. Okay. Should have this as a dependency. So let's see. I might have to bring it in manually here in case my Golang here hasn't caught up with me. So I'll go ahead and say that. Let's see. Do I have it installed? Let's head over to our Go mod file. I do not have it as a dependency. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and run my install deps command here. So I'll say go, task install deps. Okay, and this should grab all the libraries that I need to wire up. And we'll be able to use go.env. Okay, cool. So it went and snatched a few things for me. So I'm going to jump back over here. Okay, so my go.env now is coming through. So I'm going to load my config, and the default config is just an env file. So you'll see if we jump into go.env, the actual library itself, it does some default stuff for us. So it says file names are default, and you'll see here that if we don't provide any file names, it assumes that it's just reading from a .env file at the root of your project. So I'm not going to pass anything, or I'm not going to pass in a file name. It's already assuming that it's reading from this .env file. Okay, so we're going to read in our config. Let's add a few comments here. Actually, yeah, let's go ahead and just kind of give our readers here a little bit of direction. So we're going to build. Let's leave. Yeah, actually, let's write some comments here. I'm experimenting with both mindsets of code being self-documenting and maybe writing a few logs or maybe writing a few comments just to help clear out your thoughts. So I'm going to say build out our logging instance. Okay. I actually recently just did see a really cool plugin for VS Code where you could sort of tag your logs with different notations after you actually do your / for your comment, and it would highlight, you know, certain log or certain comments based on the context of them. So I thought that was really neat. Maybe we'll get something like that for Golang or Goland. Let's actually see if there is one. So I'm gonna go to plugins. Let's see if I can actually do that. There's like a commenter or something like that. Comments highlighter. Okay. Do I want to use this? Or better comments? Let's see. This one has 32,000 downloads, so it's probably pretty good. Let's see what it entails here. Oh, cool. Yeah, this is what I was referring to. Yeah, like an info comment warm. Yeah, this looks neat. Let's go ahead and use it. Let's try it out. Let's see if it works. Hopefully I don't have to restart. Okay, so now in theory I should be able to do this, right? Let's see, is it working? So come over here and I'll say, what was that? Commenter. Better comments. What would? Yeah, we installed this one, right? Comments highlighter. Yeah. Oh, maybe I didn't install it. Let's see. Okay, I don't think I actually installed it. Oh, because I didn't save. That's right. Okay, so let's install that. And I'll hit OK. Apply. Let's see if it actually works. Okay, so I should have. Oh, maybe I have to log. No, it says that should be fine. Log star. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Maybe let's try. If I do -- and I'll say info comment. Is that gonna work? No. Okay. Let's see. I know this has got to work. Well, does it work with Golang? I guess we should see. That would be the key because it does not support Go. Okay. That's okay. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. Don't need it anymore. Yeah. Sorry, pal, but won't be needing you. Yeah. Doot. Wait, let's just go back here. All right, so I'm gonna find. Let's see, where is it here? Oh, it was at the top, staring at me the whole time. Okay, this is what I want to uninstall. Yes. Okay. All right. Cool. All right, so I got that. Okay, so I'm going to load in my environment here. So let's go back and we'll say build out our logging instance. And we might actually extract this into like a third-party package. Not really a third party, but an external package so that all the services can wire this in together. And we could, in theory, also have like a really large main Go file where that main Go file just wires up all dependencies and all that stuff. But you know, I really want to kind of keep these as true separate microservices. So almost like certain services proxy to one another, you know, over a network or something like that. So for right now, I think we'll keep these as a separate, you know, file or main instances, because then I can Dockerize them and, you know, just kind of have these Docker pods talk to one another rather than one sort of beautiful monolith, or, you know, kind of a more elegant monolith, I should say. All right, so let's go ahead and load in configuration. And here, if we have an error, let's just go ahead and we'll level log this. So I'll level this as an error. So I'll pass in my logger, and let's log. So we'll say, so again, we're logging in the sense of key value pairs. So I'm going to keep everything kind of simple here. So I'm going to say, so I will have a few logs in here. Let's go ahead and just log this out. So I'll say log main. Let's do this configuration error. Let's just do this. I'm gonna do this. Configuration. Yep. Error. Wow. Bootstrapping environment. I'll come out here and I'll say error. We'll just log the error. And then let's just go ahead and exit here. So I'll say OS exit. Let's just exit code 1. So not good. We exit with 1. All right. So once we have our configuration loaded in, let's go ahead and instantiate our connection to our database. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in libpq. So I'm going to say GitHub libpq. So this is a Postgres driver. I'm going to go ahead and just import that for side effects because I'm not actually using anything in that library. I'm just depending on all the bootstrapping stuff that goes on. So I'll say db err. So let's go ahead and assign that to SQLX. I'm going to tell SQLX to open the Postgres driver name. Let's go ahead and const that in the name of clean code here. So I'll say const Postgres driver is Postgres. Oops. All right. So go ahead and I'll take that. All right, and then let's go ahead and do an os.getEnv key, and we'll say connection string. Okay, and this connection string should be coming from this guy. So I should get this as the value when I ask for the connection string key. So let's go ahead and handle that error there. So say if, let's build out our connection to the database. All right, and so then I'm going to jump down here and we'll say if I'm a really big weirdo about where to, if I have a keyword, new line between statements, just out of habit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say one sec here. All right, so we'll say SQLX. Oh, no, I don't actually want to do that. So we're going to say if error. So in other words, if we have an error, let's go ahead and do the same thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this. Let's exit 1, and we'll say, whoops. Let's go ahead and say database error while connecting to Postgres, and then we'll go ahead and just log the error. Cool. So then at this point, I have a SQLX DB that I can use, and so let's go ahead and wire that into our repository. So our repository is going to use that DB connection, and then it's going to do all of its querying stuff. I also have a middleware set up here. So this middleware, if you're familiar like with .NET middlewares and whatnot, you can think of this as more or less like an ASP.NET middleware. And again, we're going to be learning as we go here because I'm very new to GoKit, and so I'm just following documentation and just kind of seeing what I can do. Okay, so user middleware is defined as just a factory function, a higher order function that takes in a user repository and spits out a user repository. So effectively just a middleware. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and build this out. So this is going to be our users repository. This will be of type repos. So let's bring this in. Repository, user repository, and then let's go ahead and build it. So our users repository is going to be a repository.new repository. I'll pass in my SQLX DB instance, and then let's go ahead and pass this through a middleware pipeline. So I'll reassign my users repository, and then I'm just going to hand it over to the logging middleware. So I'll say repository dot new repository logging middleware, which is going to take the logger that I have, and it's also going to take in the users repository. Okay, and I promise this will make sense in a minute when we actually run through it. So I'm going to jump over to here, and we see that this new repository logging middleware takes the existing users repository, hands it over to a struct here, and this struct, or the struct just, you'll see here, down here, implements the user's repository service. So that's why I can just forward on the request. So I just do a little bit of logging about, context about the request, and then I actually hand it over to the next, spot in the pipeline, spot in the middleware pipeline. So that's what Golang provides, or not Golang. This is what GoKit provides, and I thought this was really awesome, especially coming from like a big, .NET Java background where we have middlewares set up all over in our web services and whatnot. So now I have all this stuff kind of added for me in a really easy to wire up fashion. So. Okay, so, and let's actually see what happens when we, let's make a query here. So we should actually see, when we spin this up, we'll see some logging going across, and I don't have any users in my database right now. So if we take a look at our users table here, we won't see anything because there are no users. I'm just going to go ahead and let's add some test data. So I'll say, let's go ahead. Let's see. Do I want to run some startup scripts? Probably not. Yeah. Let's just go ahead and add some test data stuff. Let's call this test data. And let's just go ahead and add a new SQL file, and we'll say seed users SQL. Okay, so I want to connect this to my real world GoKit instance. Let's connect to that users table. So let's just go ahead and insert a user here. So I'll say insert into, let's go public dot users, and then we'll go ahead and fill all this stuff out, and then I'll go ahead and say values created at, let's just go with the current timestamp, username test123. Whoops. Let's go test123. Actually, let's just stick with test for now. Say test at gmail.com. Password. This will be an encrypted password, but for now, test. Doesn't matter. Bio. We don't have to worry about those. All right. So I'll go ahead and run this. Let's go ahead and commit that within the scope of this transaction. Or let's see, did it actually commit for me? Yeah, it did. Okay, cool. So now, if I jump into, let's clear some space out here. So I'll jump down to here and I'll say, I don't know, let's get the user. And then if any errors come back, we'll log those. And I'll say, go ahead and, hey, Mr. User's repository, go grab me a user, and let's just go ahead and create a context here. So I'll say context. Let's go ahead and use context background. Okay, well, this will go away in place of GoKit endpoint context instead, since we'll be getting context from GoKit, which will be nice. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pass that context in, and we know that the user ID is 1. And then we'll just come down here and I'll say if errors not nil. Let's just go ahead and do an OS exit 1, because this isn't really code that we're going to be using here. We're going to be using this within HTTP handlers, not in our main file. And I'll just go ahead and I'll print out some stuff. So let's just go ahead and do a level log. Whoops, let's go level info. Pass in my logger, and then we'll go ahead and we'll log. Let's go ahead and log this user, and I'll just log it as JSON because why not? So I'll say JSON. What do we want? No, we want to marshal this. So let's Jason Marshall. Let's take this guy. Let's take it as a reference. And then, wait, do I want to marshal this or do I want to actually, yeah, let's just come out and we'll say encode. No, I do just want marshal. Okay, so, yeah, okay. Let's go ahead and take this and I'll say serialized and then, actually, I don't care about the error. We're just doing this for fun right now. Marshal. Go ahead and marshal that user interface. And then what else do I want? I don't think I want anything else from it, right? Okay, so I should have bytes coming back, and then I'll just go ahead and I'll string this. I'll say string serialized. Okay, so let's go ahead and step through this and make sure we actually have a valid setup here. So I'll go ahead and just start debugging this. Let's see what we get. So we'll kick this off. Database is up and running. It's doing some compiling. All right, let's see what we get. Hopefully I have the CPU to do this. Okay, so we build out our logger, we do a sync logger, so we're passing in some contextual information about the logger. Let's go ahead and log a message, and so I can see that now I have level info, so all this stuff's happening. Okay, so we're gonna load in our config loaded in fine, so that's good. We're gonna build out our database connection, and hopefully we don't have an error. Error's nil, so that's good. So now we're connecting out to our database. So we'll go ahead and grab a background context. I'll go ahead and I'll spin up a repository. We'll go ahead and spin up a new login repository. Okay, so let's full stack debug. Let's actually step into this method. So first and foremost, I'm stepping into my logging middleware. So again, this is a defer func. So this is going to fire after we actually go grab our user. And so that's important because again, there is a chance that I might not have a user. And so I don't want to actually log, stuff about the user until I've actually verified there is a user. So I might want to like do some checking to see, hey, if I have a user, log this. If I don't have a user, log something else. Okay, so this is going to fire off. Not right now. So I'm going to step into my actual get user instance here. So we just build out some SQL. We'll go ahead and we'll query the database. We'll pass over the context. We want to serialize out into this user entity. Hopefully we have no errors. Cool, no errors. And we got a user back and we can inspect that. So let's actually take a look at that. So I have user created at, test. Cool. So I got my user. So I go back up the stack. Now we should see this log fire off. And so there's the log. So I have log info service, users repository logging, method was get users. The query time took 27 seconds because we were debugging, and the user ID was 1 and there were no errors. Cool. So now if we come back to our main program, there was no error. So I shouldn't have any errors here. I should have a serialized instance, and then I'll just go ahead and log out what that guy was as a serialized JSON thing. So yeah, I have a bunch of escape characters, but totally fine. Cool. All right. I actually don't even want to do that. Let's just go ahead and do, yeah. All right, so we verified that our repository is hooked up. This is okay. Whoops, this is not a MySQL instance. We'll have to, I don't know why it detected this as MySQL because it's not MySQL. All right, that's okay. All right, I'll be right back. 1 second. There we go. Okay, so we have our user repository spun up. Now I want to feed this into our user service, and then we'll do the same thing. We'll ask the user service to retrieve a user from us. Again, and layer architecture, and we're more or less just verifying that our user repository works, and it does. So let's go ahead and we'll do the same thing. Okay, so let's wire up our users service. And so this will come from a user. So this will come from service, user service. And again, I have some middlewares set up for my users service here. And I'll actually go ahead and we're going to do a few more things as well. We're actually going to wire up some service metrics. So I'll be able to see requests coming in to the user service, any errors that may have happened in a contextualized manner outside of the logging middleware, et cetera, et cetera. So for now, let's go ahead and just wire up our user service. So I'll say user service. Let's go ahead and assign that to our service, and I'll say this is a new service. Ooh, I do need a validator. Okay, so this is new for me. So I've not used the Go validator. So let's actually go look at the docs for that. So I'll say Go validator. Okay, let's see what we got here. So it's a singleton instance, which means I have to do probably some like validator.new or something like that. Let's see. Yeah, I want the easiest. Yeah, let's actually just take a look at an example here. So this is a main function. So this is just a simple console app. Here's my validator. Okay, so I have a validator, which is new, validate struct, which is a function that does some struct validation on the user. Okay, so let's go ahead and spin up our validator. So let's go ahead and do a validator. Let's go ahead, whoops, I'll say validator. Oh, wait, these actually might have the same name. Hopefully they don't. Okay, so I'll say validate. I think that's what we want. Dot, can I do a new validator? No, maybe it has to actually be, wait, got an import there. No, I don't want protect. Let's go ahead and do a users validator, because I think I might be clashing with that namespace. So I'll say validator dot new. All right, cool, that's what I want. All right, so now I'm going to take this users validator, I'm going to pass it in, and this should be validate, yes, okay, and then it also needs a logger, so I'll say logger. Let's see, what else does it need? I believe, let's see, we need a validator and a repository. Oh, right, I'm not passing in the logger right now. We might do some application logging, but right now we're just relying on middleware. So I have my users validator, so that's good. I have my users service here. I do want to pass context into these. Let's actually do that real quick. So I'll come back over here. I'll say CTX, and so this will be a context. Let's go ahead and pass this in to each one of our service methods. So I'll say, let's do that. Context. We probably could actually pass this in as an instance. I more or less am thinking of context as somewhat aligned with what a cancellation token is in ASP.NET, or just in .NET in general. I'm sure that's probably not the right mental model to think of context about, because it's a lot more than just a cancellation token, right? So there's this deadline on here. So deadline exceeded, if I say, these whatever request can only happen and it only has 30 seconds to execute or something like that. But then I can also store things on context and pass it around. So we get like things like request tracing and whatnot. There's a lot of great things that we can do with context, especially when we talk like microservice to microservice, right? We want to pass things on context, maybe like a trace ID on the request or something like that, so I can follow it. How a request, the life cycle of a request, flowed through several different services and whatnot. Okay, cool. So I've got that wired up. So let's go ahead and now we'll pass this through our logging middleware. So in my internal, if I jump down to users, in the service here, oh, we actually don't have any users logging. So let's go ahead and create that now. So let's say users, oops, don't want it in all caps, users service logging. Yep, so that'll just be that. So I'll define the same thing here. I want to jump over to my user service, and we do need to define what a user's middleware is. So again, this is a type, so this will be my users service middleware. This will be a factory function, so this will take a user service, and it will hand back a user's service. Okay, so now I can come over to my users logging here. So let's define a struct. So this will be a type plus my users service logging middleware, and this will be a struct. And all I need in this right now is a logger, which will be a log. This will be a kit logger. So I'll pass this over. Cool. And then I'll have the next service that I'm going to pass this over to in the pipeline, and this will be a users service. And then let's go ahead and create a constructor for this. I'm just going to see if I can do this. Cool, and I can. All right. Wait, that's not what I want. Okay, so I'm going to say generate constructor. I want all of that, please. Thank you. All right. Let's go ahead and format this a bit. Let's go ahead and put this on a new line, that on a new line. Okay, cool. I want this to not hand back a reference to my logging middleware. Wait, I think I do, right? Yeah, I want it to pass back my users service middleware. No, capital. Hold on one sec. Oh, it's got to be public. That's why. So we'll come over here and I'll say uppercase this. Okay. So now it's going to scream at me because I'm not actually implementing what that should do. Oh, this is a factory function. Whoops. This should be func service. And then I'll come down and I'll say return this. And now I actually want to implement the interface for my logging middleware. So this is a user service and I want to implement all of this stuff. Okay, my receiver name, I want it to just be middleware. And then let's just, again, for convention, we're going to operate on a reference instance rather than like a class-based static instance here. Probably don't need to actually do that, but out of habit. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. And so I'm going to say return middleware next, and then we're going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to pass this over to the register user, and I'm going to pass in all the request information here. Okay, now after this function runs, I want to defer func. I want to pass some stuff in here. So this will be, again, same thing. So I'll say begin time. And then we're going to pass in a time.now. Okay, so I want to log a few things. So let's level log and info. And then I'll pass in my middleware logger. Cool, and then let's log. And again, we're thinking key value pairs here. So I want to log the method name. So this is register user. Let's log maybe like some request information. So we'll say user request. Let's do this. Now see, this does have a chance to be null here. We actually should be doing some null assertions higher up. So we're going to go ahead and assume that if we're in the service layer, we've done our validation in terms of we have a valid request. So probably not a great, I don't want to panic here if we don't have a user request. So I just want to guarantee some values here. Okay, so I'll take my user request and I'll do the same thing here. So let's actually do some defaults. So I'll take serialized user request. This is going to be, again, just, let's do this. Let me actually grab the return type here. I should do this. Error, whoops, not error. Let's say user response. Then this will be the error, so then I can actually utilize them after this middleware fires off. Let's go ahead and clear some space here. So I'm going to go ahead and say my serialized user request. Let's go ahead and JSON marshal that. And I don't want to clash with any error that happened in the service layer, so let's go ahead and really, this shouldn't be failing. I want that guy. Whoops. Okay, so I'm going to JSON marshal the user here. All right, so now that should be okay. And then I'll pass this in and I'll say string serialized user request. And then I'll also want to log the request time. This will be a time.since begin. And then I also want to log any errors that may have happened. So I'll go ahead and log that. All right, so now I've got this. Now here's where we could get in trouble where, again, this is a reference, so it does happen to be null. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do some, maybe like some fallback stuff here. So we'll say serialize. I'm actually just gonna take this here. And I'll say, let's default this. And so I'll say serialize user request. Let's go ahead and byte this. So I'll say bytes. Oops, byte. Can't spell today. Okay, so we'll say, I'm just gonna do this for now. Null, meaning, okay, we don't have an actual user request to serialize. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and do an if user was not nil. And really, if we get to this point, we should actually be getting some stuff back. So like if this request here was null for whatever reason, or nil for whatever reason, we should be actually handling that in the register user service method, and then we should be propagating those errors upwards. So whatever happens in terms of, you know, validation or whatever, should be wrapped up in this error. So maybe I don't even want to serialize this request, but maybe just for now we will. Actually, this will be a defer func. What I really want to do is I want to log before this method executes what the actual thing is. So let's actually move this out of this defer func. I want to do something similar here, so we'll level log this. But let's jump up and we'll level log before we execute. And then, actually it doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and do this. I'll defer func, which is fine. And then before we execute, let's go ahead and run through, again, log the method, and then we'll just log out the request. And so I'll say serialized user request. Let's just go ahead and default byte that to, oops, null. I'm not going to do any sort of like error propagation in my middleware. I'm going to let my service handle that because that's not the middleware's, that's not the logging middleware's job. The logging middleware's job is to simply log information about the request and the response. So I'm going to go ahead and say if user, oops, we'll say if user is not nil. We're going to have bigger problems if our user request is not instantiable here, or is not available to us. So we'll say serialized, oops, serialized user request. And then again, I'm just going to go ahead and ignore this error for now. I really only care about if we have errors coming back on the response. We may want to handle this, but from what I've seen, pretty much everyone just ignores the marshalling errors. So I'm going to go ahead and marshal the user here, and then oops, don't need that. Cool. All right. So now I can jump down here, and then we're not going to be logging request time. We're going to be logging the actual serialized request here. Okay, so should have that wrapped up for me. Okay, we don't have an error yet, so I won't worry about logging that. Okay, should do this, take that. Okay. All right, so then I've got this. Okay, don't want to log that there. I'm already taking care of it. Okay, so I have register user, cool. So let's actually wire this up. Let's make sure we have all of our stuff working here for us. So let's say my user service equals service dot, oop, gotta tell it that I actually want an instance of that logger there. So let's jump back here and I'm gonna generate a constructor with everything. This is gonna hand back a users service middleware. Should hand back, wait, did I already create? Oh, I did. Let's go ahead and grab this, Okay, so now I've got a new users logging middleware. Okay. And then let me actually make sure, yep. Okay, so we're wiring everything up. Okay, so I'm gonna jump back to main here and I'm gonna say service new service middleware where I'm gonna pass the logger. What else do we need? We also need the, let's see, what did that guy need? I think it actually, no, it didn't need a logger, it just needed this next. Okay, let's see. Yeah, this is what I want. I don't know what I was thinking. So let's go back here. Okay, so we will have this. I won't need that. So jump in here, I'll say, let's call that next. Okay, so now if I jump back, I should get this, and then I'll pass in the user's service. Okay, there we go. All right, so now let's go ahead and actually spin this up. And I'll say, so now we should have all that logging taken care of in our service middleware. So let's just go ahead and run a user's service. We'll just ignore, well, let's see if any errors happen here. So I'll go ahead and say user service. Let's go ahead and grab that, well, not user service, let's say created user. So let's try and create a user here. So I'll say user service dot register user. So I'll pass in my context and then let's take a reference to a struct of type register. Let's see if my IntelliSense is going to work here. So I want the service request and I'll just go ahead and fill all the fields here. And so I'll say email test123 at gmail.com. Then I'll have a test123 password. We're just going to call test. Okay, so now my user service probably won't even get anything happening here. So yeah, so we have some errors here. Instead of panicking, I'm just going to go ahead and let's do this return nil. Just doing errors new. There, doesn't really matter. We're just testing to make sure our middleware plumbing is all wired up here. So I'll say if my error is not nil, well, it's not going to be nil. So let's just go ahead. I actually don't want to do anything with that created user yet. I just want to work through the whole flow here and make sure that my logging middleware is instantiated properly and, you know, seeing the things that I want to see. So I'm going to go ahead and debug this, and then we should see some logging happening when we actually send this request off, because I have some middleware set up, and then we will set up some metrics, which we won't be able to access yet because we don't have any endpoint middleware set up, or we actually don't have any transport layer yet, but we will soon. Okay, don't know why that debug didn't happen. Okay, so don't care. We know all this is going to work, so let's head down to our user service. Let's go ahead and step into user service. Step. Don't care. Step into that. Okay, so now we should have, okay, so this defer func isn't going to fire yet. We should see some logging happening now, though. So bootstrapping. Okay, so we have a serialized user, so we're gonna log here. Okay, so I have some logging happening, some data about the request before it actually happens. And so then I'm gonna jump into my register user service. And so now I don't have to log anything inside of my actual service implementation. We might wanna like log certain errors that happen, but you know, if we can kind of remove our logging away, it reduces, it makes these register, you know, these service classes or these service methods a lot easier to test, because then we don't have to worry about like mock loggers or anything like that, because that's all happening higher up. Okay, so we're just gonna get an error. Okay, so now that's gonna be nil. And so again, we just wanted to see that, hey, we actually were getting stuff back. And so this error here is the actual message that I should be handing back. So I was able to see that here's the request, test, the password, all that stuff. Probably don't want to log the password actually. Let's go ahead and change that right now. That's not a good idea. Yeah, I should probably tell it to omit that guy. I'm actually just going to do this. Let's go ahead and let's call this a struct. I want to log the username. Let's see, which is a string. Okay, and then let's just go ahead and JSON this as username, and then I'll go ahead and I'll log. Or let's do the password. Oh, not password, that's the whole reason we're doing this. Email, string, JSON, email. Okay, and then I'll actually pass in some values here. And this will be my, what do we have here? Request, right? User.username, and then we have user.email. Okay, so let's run that again. And so we know it's going to crash, but we just want to see what it's actually logging, because I don't want to log passwords inside of logs. Not a good idea. Okay, cool. So now we have username, email, sweet. So we could probably make this even easier. You know, we could have like a serial or like a safety log implementation. So I might have like a user here, and then I would, you know, add, actually, let's do that right now. We'll do like a log for safety method. So on my register user method here, let's go ahead and in my utilities here, really want like a safe log version of my structs. And this is a good idea too, if you're working with, you know, in any sort of like, you know, private instance, or you have, you know, data that you don't really want to be logged, right? So, you know, things like social security numbers or credit card numbers or PIN numbers in the finance world, or, you know, account numbers, anything that, you know, you maybe want to mask before you log. It's a good idea to, you know, any of your models that you have coming into your web services, or, you know, any sort of like container DTO data you're passing around, and, you know, you just want to log metadata about, you know, those request models. Always good to sort of have like a safety version and force or a safety version of that struct or model that you can log information out of, because it might be containing like credit card numbers, social security numbers, right? And so if I just rely on like a default 2-string implementation of my model, I might accidentally log all the stuff inside of that class or struct or whatever, right? And so I really just want like a safe version to log. It's a long way of saying that. So all of my services will be using that. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a package here, and let's go ahead and add like a utilities package. So I'll say utilities, and let's go ahead and I'm just going to add an interface, and I want all of my structs to implement that interface, so then I can just call a method off of them. So and really what we could even do, so let's start out small here. So I'll say func, this will be register service, and I'll say to safe log, or to yeah, let's go to safe logging struct. Okay, and this will just be a method, and it's just going to return not a good thing to do here, but okay. So I'm just returning like a version of this thing so that I can pass it to my logger, and then my logger can, I can log inside of logs like a JSON model of what I actually want logged. And you know what? Let's actually just return a string, because that's really what I want. So I'll just format a string. So we'll say return funct. Let's do an s print f. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and I'll say username, and I'll go ahead and say this is I need a reference to this, so I'll take my request. So this will be request dot username. Whoops, this is sprint. I should say this. Yes, username is that. Oops, no, this is just a string. Okay, and then on a new line, we'll log email, and I'll say same thing, and then I'll pass in the request dot email. Okay. All right. So this is a toSafe logging struct. So now if I go back out to my serialization here, I can just say JSON Marshall. I actually don't even want to really do this. We're not super worried about this. I just want to log this guy for safety. So I'll come down here, and as a matter of fact, if I go back to my register service request here, because I'm null propagating this thing all the way down. Let's actually do some default logging here. So I'll say if request is nil, just go ahead and return null. Let's do this nil. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and I'll do this. Okay, so now I don't have to really worry about this default serialized request user. I can just say back off of this, and I'll say user. Oops, we want to deref that, and I'll say user dot toSafe logging struct. Whoops. Wait, maybe I didn't need to do that. Okay, cool. And so now, if I run this, I should see some logs happening here. Uh-oh, missing the git command. No, I'm not. All right, we'll just run this again. And so we had some errors happen, but now I see that I have this test. Oh, let's actually go ahead and new line this. Wait, why didn't that take? Let's see. Do I really want that? No. I want a new line, Oh, wait. No, don't want that. New line. Okay, let's see here. So we have request is username, email. Yeah, so that looks fine. All right. Don't know why. Let's see. Golang strings print new line. I could also actually literally just do this too. Well, I want to return this as a single string, right? Okay, so I want Golang, how to print new lines, yeah, and a template. Oh, let's actually just use a template. Just to make it easy on us here. So I'll say template, username, -v, email, not v, s. Say S. Okay, and then I've got all the rest of my stuff here. Okay, let's see. So maybe it'll detect the new line that way. Let's see. Again, I'm not a Go expert, so okay. Still looks like it didn't. Oh yeah. So see, it is printing those new lines, but not in the way that I want it to. So all right, that's fine. We'll just go ahead and split this back. I'll just go ahead and say username. -v. Wait, let's actually take a look here. Yeah, so this is what I'm getting, and I don't want that. I want this, right? So let's see. No, I'm not in the browser right now. I don't want to print. Wait, maybe we can do an S print line. S print line. Yeah, okay, I think we're gonna have to do like a to log here. So to log, and we'll say this would be font dot line username, and I'll pass in user dot or request dot username. That's not what I want either. Okay, so what do we have? Split text, full range, print the value, or print lining. I don't want to print. I want this all to print in place. Right. I'm not going to worry too much about it for now. I'll just go ahead and say sprint f. That, and then I'll just go ahead and colon separate them. So we'll say email dash s, and I'll go ahead and I'll say request dot username, request dot email. Nice. Okay. So now, so again, we've proved this works, right? So we know this is Golang. I don't know why it keeps happening. Okay. All right, so there's my to safety thing. So now I'm not logging the password, so that's nice. Let's extract this because I really just want all my stuff to implement this to safe logging struct here. And so I'll just come down here and I'll say, let's go ahead and add like a safe logging. And let's go ahead and implement. So this will be a type. It's really, so I want all of these things. So interface. So let's call this a safety logger. We'll fix it here in just a minute. So this is an interface. Call it an empty interface for now. But then I want all of these guys to implement that to safe logging struct there. So let's go ahead, and again, this is me experimenting with Go because I don't know too much about Go right at the moment. So I'll say func. Oh, sorry, we actually want this. To safe logging struct, and this will just return a string. Let's call this a safe logging struct. Safe logging struct. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and I'll say func. No. Okay, so now I want everyone to implement this interface here. And so now you'll see that I got some highlights saying, hey, I found someone that actually implements this, and it's this guy. Cool. So now all of these guys are here. And so now I could even do some stuff like, hey, if I wanted to typecast, all my safe logging and whatnot, I have that built in for me. So now I can come in here and I can say Control-Shift-I, and I'll say choose something to enter, an API to implement, or something to implement, and I can say safe logging struct. Cool, and I can do the same thing here. Nice. Okay. So I've got that taken care of. What else do we have here? So in my service, let's see. I want to do one more thing here. So I'm going to go grab some metric logging, and I believe in our task file. Let's go ahead and actually want to spin up all my GitHub stuff first and foremost. So let's go ahead and create a new repository. This will be a real world Go kit and implementation of the real world backend spec written in Go using Go kit. Cool. Okay. Go ahead and I'll add that. Let's go ahead and copy some stuff out here. All right. So let's go ahead and do a boop, paste that in. Go ahead and just do all this stuff here. So git branch, rename to main. Then I'll git push dash set upstream origin main. Okay, but I gotta add all my files first. So git add, git commit. Let's see, let's call this a, it's more like a task. Well, it's feed. So we'll say users, boot. Let's call this scaffold service. All right, and then I'll go ahead and I'll push that up. So now, if I refresh the page, cool. So I've got all my stuff here. Oh, I don't want that. Git rm dash cache dash r dot idea. I'm gonna go ahead and add that to my git ignore because I don't want that dot idea. Cool. So now go ahead and git push. Git add, git status. Nice. So git commit dash m chore workspace remove dot idea files. Git push. All right. So now I shouldn't see that idea folder. Cool. All right. Nice. Okay. And then we have some test data here where we could just run this if I wanted to. Even on Bootstrap. For the Postgres container here, I could say, hey, create the database, spin up, create the database, and seed all the users. Don't do that for now, but then we have, some cool stuff already implemented for us. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I don't have an endpoint set up just yet. We could actually do that real quick. All right, so we'll do one more service implementation here. So I'll go grab this and I'll say users service metrics. And so this will be just insight into my actual service. So how many times it's being called, is there outgoing requests? Maybe I want to do some like heuristic logging. So maybe I want to eventually graph, how many requests I get at a specific interval during a time of day, all that type of stuff, right? So just metric data about our service itself, what it's doing, insight into it, right? So that was, in the logging sense, I'm just logging stuff that happens with the service. In the metric sense, I'm logging, again, just data that I can analyze. Like if I wanted to literally take data and put it on a graph, that's the way I like to think of it. So I have some stuff already written, so I'm just going to pull that over. I'm going to cheat a little bit here. So I'm going to go head over to service. All right, and so we actually call this, in the GoKit world, they've been calling this instrumentation. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm actually not going to call it instrumentation. I'm going to call it metrics because why not? All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do some copy and pasting here. Not a good idea. So I don't need this. This was my messing around. So this is going to be a users service. And now I'm just going to rename all of this. So everywhere where a product service exists, replace that with users service. Okay. I still want this to be package private. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay. So now I have a user service middleware. Users service middleware. Again, let's go ahead and call those as references here. I'm going to get rid of this stuff, actually. I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, go ahead and implement the users service. Okay, cool. So now I've got that. We'll bring up my constructor here so I can see it. All right. Nice. Can you do like a func lock? Is that a thing in Go? No. Okay. All right. So cool. I'm going to go ahead and rename all these receivers. Let's call this middleware. And again, let's call this, let's actually do this. I'll replace all of this with MW star. Again, just keeping with convention here. Because everything else is a nillable receiver, so might as well have a nillable receiver here. Okay, so now in my register user, Let's go ahead and I'm going to add some stuff here. And again, I'm going to cheat a little bit. So I'm going to go grab this. Okay, so same idea. I'm going to have a defer func. It's going to have some time values in it. And again, this is for observability, so I can see like, request latency, all this type of stuff, like how long a request was taking or how long a request inside my service was taking. And we're actually already logging this higher up, but we'll see when we actually tap into Prometheus. And so I'll bring Prometheus in as another service, and we'll spin it up with our Docker file or our Docker container. And we'll be able to see, all the services talking to Prometheus and all the metric data, when I actually spin this thing up. So, okay, let's go ahead and rename these here. So I'll say response. Let's call this Okay, let's create some space here. I'm going to go ahead and spin up my, I don't know where it's at, so I'll say task, Postgres start. Whoops, that's not a task. Okay, task Postgres start. Okay, and then I'll forward this along to my registered user, and I'll pass in context and user. Okay, so we have a defer func, which is happening here. So once this method executes, we're just going to add it to metric data and say, okay, there was one invocation, and here was the time it took for that invocation. Okay, so now, again, I'm going to label value pair here. So this is going to be my registered user, and then I'll also add to my metrics if any error occurred. And I could also do like other stuff too. I could, request count. So these are all coming from stuff inside the Prometheus kit. So actually, let's spin that up now. So I'll head over here. I'm going to need a few imports. So I'm going to cheat a little bit again. So I'm going to grab this stuff. I'm going to head over to main go. All right, so I'm going to drop this in. So I'm bringing in kit Prometheus and then Prometheus from the actual Prometheus library. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and wire up those metrics. So I'll set up some stuff here. So this will be before my user service. Okay, so my namespace will just be the overall domain of my application. So this is a real world go kit. The service is the users service, field keys, method, and error. And I could add more stuff here. This method and error is just coming from, if we go over to our user service metrics, again, here's the keys that we're actually logging up. And it's for, graphically, if I wanted to see it on a user interface and whatnot in real time. Okay, so I have request count, request latency. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that new users. Oh, I don't have a constructor for that, do I? Let's see. New users service metrics. Okay, so let's go ahead and add this. And this is going to take, what does it need? A counter and a request histogram. Okay, so I'll take request count, request latency. Okay, so I also want, let's see, where is it? Let's go ahead and just bring in the chi router real quick. I know an error is going to happen here. So I'm just going to log it for now. So I'll say, I'm going to remove it, so I don't really need a level log. So I'll just say log, or who cares? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and spin up my chi router. Say router is chi dot new router. I'm just going to go ahead and add one endpoint. So this will be a router dot get. Let me go grab something here. Again, I'm doing a lot of cheating now. Let's see, what do I want? Let's go ahead and blast off here. Okay, so I have register user service domain. Okay, so I really want to just get, send a request to metrics, and then say our users service dot. No, I don't want that. Oh, what is it? Is it from Prometheus itself? What is it? Request count. Can I do this? No, I don't want that. Let's go ahead and do standard Prometheus dot. Should be like a metrics or something. I thought there was. All right, I'm gonna have to go grab it. So let's open a folder here. I'm gonna go grab. Oh yeah, this. Okay. Let's see. Didn't want to open, huh? Let's try that again. I'll bring it over here. So I've got to open a file here. So I'm going to code one up examples. This is just my fork of the GoKit examples repo. Hopefully it actually opens. Okay. So we have some metric logging here. So command, there's the main Go file. And so what I want, oh, maybe it's not in this guy. I think it's in this service, maybe. Let's see. So we have, again, the same thing. So I could also add metrics as to like what the output of the function was. If I really wanted to get that granular, we need metrics prom HTTP. That's what I want. Okay, so I need to bring in this guy. Let's see. Don't think I'm bringing it in yet. All right, cool. So then I can go down to here and I could say Prometheus HTTP. Is it the handler that I want? I believe it's the handler. Let's see, wait, what do we actually want? Metrics, yeah, handler. It's not a Lambda. Okay. So let's see, router, get, oh yeah, you know what? I can do handler.serve HTTP. Yeah, that's what I want. Okay. All right, so I'm telling Chi that on this metrics route, tell me stuff about, request counts, latency, all that stuff. And then I'll do the same thing. So I'll come down here and I'll say if you go grab some stuff here. Yeah, I just want this. This was a really cool way I thought to handle errors, which was really, really nice. So let's actually go ahead and do that. So we'll say, I'm not worried about it just yet. So let's go do this. If equals, we'd say HTTP dot listen and serve. Listen and serve. We're just going to go underneath port 8080, and then I'm just going to hand over the router. If is not nil, just go ahead and get 1. Let's go ahead and level log 2. So we'll say level error. We're going to pass in our logger. I'm going to say log main server startup error during server startup, and then we'll just go ahead and log the error. All right, so now I should actually have a full service happening here. There's no panics, so that's good. All right, so we'll get rid of this. Oh, this actually will panic because there's no connection to the database. So let's go ahead and spin this up. Also, just in the name of keeping things simple here, we'll snake case that. Okay, so my database is spun up, and let's see here. Yeah, so that was a must-register call. Okay, cool. So everything's logging the way I should. And actually, I'm going to make this even easier here, just so I can see the logs happen in even simpler fashion. So let's go ahead and clear out, and I'll say task. So I'm going to jump over to my task file real quick. So task file YAML. I want a start users. Yeah, run. Let's do this. Start. Start users service. Say build users service. Okay, so I'm going to take this. I'm going to say task. Start the user service, and this needs to look in the CMD users folder. And let's go ahead and rename that users microservice. So if we look at the user here, oh, whoops, in my command folder, I have a users main.go. And so we're just going to run this whole thing. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and spin that off. I'm going to go ahead and run. Okay, so there's all my logs coming through. Okay, so obviously we did have an error come back from the register user service because we're not doing anything yet. Okay, what I want to do though is, so we did have a request fire off, which is good. Actually, I'm going to do this again. So let's have 2 requests fire off. And so I'll go ahead and I'll say that. I'm going to go ahead and grab Postman here. And I'm going to call the metrics endpoint because I had 2 errors occur. So if I call the metrics endpoint, I've got metric data. Cool. So I've got some stuff that happened. Let's actually do this. And I'll just go ahead and raw. And so I get all this Go data. And so I can actually look at, if I go to register user. So here was 2 invocations of the register user service. There was an error. And so I get more or less like a log of what happened. And again, I got, latency microseconds. So I've got metric data again that I could feed this to some sort of, graphical tool that would ingest this metric log and then spit out nice graphs for me. So cool. We've got some cool stuff set up. I think we'll do a little bit more tomorrow where we'll actually start writing the service implementations of all this stuff. But I think this is a good place to stop for now. I think we're right where I want to be. So I'll go ahead and I'll just go ahead and add this. Git commit -m feat users add service metrics. And then next time what we'll do is we'll actually spin up the sort of endpoint layer where we connect our service to the actual deserialization and serialization of requests, like the actual API layer. And then we'll have one more transport layer, which will be responsible for doing all the routing. And again, we're building out in layers here. So there's a great diagram that I've been adhering to that GoKit, I think, does a great job of. So coming from the more traditional OO world, you hear about onion architecture, and good or bad, whether or not onions stink is up to you. So this is more or less the paradigm that we're going to stick to here. So we have our business logic. So we have application logging, service metrics hooked into our service layer. We could add, again, any number of middlewares to do whatever we want for our service. We'll have, and again, this is more operational metrics. So this is what we plugged in. Oh, no, I'm sorry, we did service metrics. So this is stuff we may or may not get into. This is more like rate limiting, load balancing services, which we might have to do. For the scale of our project, we don't really need this, but it'd be fun to try it out. And then we'll have the transport layer, where the transport layer will just be more or less chi routing certain requests, making sure cores is hooked up for certain requests, making sure, I'm protecting certain routes. So this will be the chi/HTTP layer, and then we'll have the endpoint layer, which will be, once I know a request is being routed to me, I'm going to do some, request inspection, maybe get the serialized body request and then pass it forward to the service, get the service response, and then serialize the response back out to the transport layer, and the transport layer will send that back to my client. So all that good stuff will probably be next stream. Again, we'll be learning some GoKit together. So all right, cool. This was a fun one. I'll see you guys next time.